This conference will now be recorded.
6:06 p.m. We'll call to order the Monterey Select Board on January 15th, and we have all three members present here in Town Hall. The first order of business is fire department staffing, so there's a couple of job descriptions. Chris and John, I don't know if you wanna come up to the front or sit where you are, whichever is fine.
Whatever you like.
It's up to you. I'm not blind.
Just so it's clear to everybody, because of the potential concern about, people who are related, family members working for each other, that is obviously a very common problem in both fire and police departments all over the country, not just here. I talked to Donna and basically she suggested that with regard to the fire department, that if the town hadn't adopted MGL chapter 48, section 42, which is the strong fire chief law, that we adopt instead 42A, which essentially 42A is what we have been doing. It puts the select board in charge of actually appointing people on the fire department, which is what we've been doing. So at present, 42A, chapter 48, section 42A. At present, the way we do it is that the fire chief makes a recommendation for appointment and we appoint. If we codify that by adopting 42A, which is just what we have been doing, and keep it that way, then all of the staff actually answer to us since we're the appointing authority, and therefore it removes some of the nepotism issue. She also recommended that if we can change the deputy's job description so that they answer on a day-to-day basis to the fire chief, but answer to the select board /TA, as we choose to put it. And that in his review, the TA or a select board member, I'm thinking should be the TA, as well as the fire chief be present. And the same thing could apply if another family member of somebody else in the department answers to, let's say, their captain is a family member,
Right.
they're being reviewed, or whoever. We can apply the same principle of having another participant. I even pointed out to her that, I know that, for instance, I feel like I could have valuable input for Chris on, like, he's done a lot of the number work, he's presented stuff, and I'm impressed with his performance, and I'd be happy to do that, but when it comes to firefighting, forget about it. I am not, no one here at this table would be the right person to evaluate that. So I think it's important that the chief be present for that, but perhaps not be the only participant. I ran it by Sean, he seemed okay with that. So, I mean, it's a reasonable concern that people have, and, having anyone who's got adult kids or family members knows that working with them is not always smooth, and you need a process for dealing with that. So, Sean also recommended, and I agree, that we need to put something in the personnel manual for how we deal with that situation.
Mhm.
So I will make sure then in the personnel things, I deal with that as well. But that was really the only substantive change from the version last week.
No, I agree with you, though. I thought both job descriptions were both well written. The only suggestion I had is we had performance standards, but we also they would have to do annual reviews. Because the department heads, you do that now, so that they could just be caught in there. You have
Yep.
performance standards in annual reviews. That would be consistent with everybody else.
Yep, I agree.
Mhm.
You good with that?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Did you have anything?
No, I think I'm recusing because
Okay.
the staffing of the fire department I'm a firefighter, it's that whole
Yeah.
issue of it's a small town.
Absolutely.
And
I
so
would say,
I
however,
can't-
you're a good editor, and if you had like that kind of thing, I'd totally be
Yeah. No,
willing to listen.
it's tough, I'd like to have input, like on
No, I
any
know.
issues, but.
But
I
it's
can't
better to
get caught
just
up
say
in a
nothing,
conflict.
okay, no problem, understood. Do you guys have anything else?
We're just here to answer any questions.
Okay.
Make sure.
No, I'm very pleased. The only thing that I was gonna suggest, and it's not a judgment, is we're gonna be asked about what are comparable towns paying? And it should be completely transparent.
Yep.
And, we're anticipating people with a lot more
I'm
experience.
assuming you have a bunch on that.
So I just talked to Adjournment today.
Mhm.
They're kind of in the similar situation in proposal phases.
Mhm.
And they're going firefighter EMT, $30 an
I
hour.
mean, I'll send you the email and just have the list. That's sort of getting our transparency
Yeah.
sheet up together.
Yeah, we actually, been talking, we did a little budget talk this
Yeah.
week. We sat down with Chris and
Mhm.
Sean, and they both, had some numbers based upon what they've seen and put out there for,
We need
which we'll
to-
talk about
It's
during
gotta
budget
just be
season.
transparent.
Yep.
It's gonna be what it's gonna be.
When we should probably have it for all the positions. just
Yeah, I think we should have it for all. I mean,
Yeah.
they can ask questions, but I mean, it's, you just say, the facts are the facts.
Yep.
That's what I want, man.
I think that it will be informative for people to see what chiefs and deputy chiefs make in other towns.
But,
Yeah,
This is a pretty small amount compared to some.
I know,
yeah,
I've seen some of the comparables, I don't have them to hand, but I have in the past seen them, and
No, I mean.
Yeah. they are what they are.
They are what they are. It's looking, if you go down our agenda, what we're gonna pay for someone to do administrative work in the Department of Highway, that's a lot more than what we would have paid 4 or 5 years ago. It's reality check, but if people, it's gonna be what it's gonna be. I'm not.
But we had 20 comparable communities for the, police
Mm.
detail rate. It's
Yeah,
just numbers, so, yeah, I will see what I can put together for that.
okay.
Anything else?
No, I thought otherwise it's good. You can see some people I appreciate the effort to get it documented and get it right.
So Sean and Chris also feel like it would be smart to extend them working together just Monday and Tuesday, at least one more week. We don't have the other two staff members yet that will cover the weekends. They have to finish, they have the proposed job description for the EMT. They need to put one together for a paramedic that would have slightly different things, and then we need to advertise for them, for the
EMT and firefighter, no paramedic yet.
sorry, EMT firefighter, right. Sorry. Too many different discussions, it's like all swimming in there.
Okay.
The good part is that brings the total cost down a little bit, but, it's not gonna be a huge difference, but it gives them more time to work collaboratively in overlap time, which I think is a good idea, because there's a lot of stuff, I's to dot, T's to cross, and things to figure out and plan. So I would propose that we extend them working collaboratively Monday and Tuesday, an additional week.
Okay.
That puts out the full-time staffing, but I think will put us in a better position. Do you second?
I second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sometimes it seems kind of goofy, but you gotta do it. Check my notes to see if there was anything else I wanted to tell you guys. That's it. Oh, and at some point, we're gonna have to update the organizational chart to reflect that, and how we put the way we described it, I'm not really sure how we, so we appoint the fire chief and we appoint the deputy fire chief. But if the fire chief so I guess that leaves the fire chief answering to us, right? Is that how yeah. It's under town administrator. So I think that works. Do we need to have deputy fire chief on there directly?
We don't have to decide that.
Okay. That's
I
fine.
mean, ultimately, he can't hire and fire me or.
Right.
Has to come from you guys anyway, so.
I think that we're,
Organizationally, operationally, I work. under-
exactly, I think the problem is there's the organizationally and operationally, and the current thing, in most jobs, there is no distinction. But in this one, there is, and I'm not sure how to reflect that sort of, so that there isn't question down the line, because we'll know how it works, but we don't want the institutional memory being lost. And right now, that chart is supposed to give us institutional memory, but that means it needs to reflect the reality, and then I'm just raising the thing that I'm not sure how to do that accurately, but we'll have to think about it, because it only occurred to me kind of today. So, all right, that was the last thing for that.
I have one house, or you have a question?
Cause Sean's here, I'm working with Roger on invoices, you had an invoice for COCOM, is that for the new truck?
That is right.
Okay.
But not the KME new fire truck, the pickup truck,
Yeah, the pickup truck you had, yeah, that you had a second stage and that was doing the modifications.
yes, so we just started.
Yeah, I saw the invoice today.
So what's the status?
So I went to North Adams, saw it online late this afternoon, that it made it there and it's in the shop and
To be
some of the
modified.
parts and pieces of radios, lights,
Yeah,
letter,
it's everything.
it's all
It's like
happening,
$6,000
yeah.
worth of
Cool.
work.
It'll be a lot more by the time we're done, I think, pretty much the quote was 18, 19. But as parts and pieces come in, they're
Okay,
billing us.
all right.
Is there an ETA?
For him to be done with it, probably a month. So we're doing it in 2 phases. So this phase, we'll get the truck in service, we can get rid of the rescue, we can sell a rescue, sell a brush truck, I think so. Hopefully, because we have to order a body for it, and that's 4 to 6 months for arrival, so.
Oh.
And we're kind of sidetracked on, and then we got into everything else right now, so.
All right.
Okay, all right.
I have one housekeeping, point, so is next Tuesday evening the pipeline class?
21st.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I assume that you're planning on being there,
I'm gonna go.
so do we wanna meet on Wednesday next week?
Sure.
If it's important that,
Another training is what you're doing, or a class.
Froze up.
I'm just thinking,
No,
you're gonna be there.
it's a valid point.
I was also thinking about going separately, but if it's important that you be at this meeting too, then maybe we'll just meet again Wednesday if that works for everybody.
It works for me.
Yeah, that is the 22nd.
Yes.
And that way we don't have to choose between.
Supposedly we get a goodie bag if we go to that, so.
The pipeline class.
Supposedly.
A goodie bag,
Nice.
what could that include?
Morgan, Kinder Morgan,
Is this how to handle a fire on the pipeline or something?
any pipe with emergency.
Okay. All right,
So what's the next steps?
so I think we need to just look over the
Or we
ad.
get green lights to go ahead with all of it or some of it.
I think, as far as I can see, we're giving you the green light, but we're gonna have to, like, your job descriptions are in-house, the EMT one we need to put out. You should probably work with Roger to figure out where we should put that up and how we should put it up.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
so
mean,
that's a posting.
and maybe work with Roger to figure out how you wanna do vet applications and interview people.
We're working on a hiring process, we don't wanna just fill a seat,
Yep,
so.
agreed.
We're working on that process, we have pretty much a posting put together, mostly hammered out,
Yeah.
job description.
Are there
Per diem,
specific spots, specific fire?
Or the
For fire.
specific per diem firefighter, first responder.
Okay.
Per diem firefighter, yeah.
mean, that seems like the next thing up, and then maybe you should also plan what they're, assuming you can fill it, what would the start date be? Is it as soon as you can hire them, or like if they respond, if you posted it tomorrow and you found someone you wanted immediately, would they be starting that next Saturday, or would it be like, it's not uncommon for people to start at a date further out.
Yep.
So just think about what that should be.
We're gonna do like a skills assessment thing, so we'll have to figure out how we're gonna make that work as far as timing. But I would assume it's gonna be a open rolling,
Till you find the people
because
you need.
I can't imagine we're gonna have 40 applicants.
Yeah. Cause that's the idea, is to have more than one.
Yeah, we need more than the bare bones, so.
Okay.
So yeah, Monday, Tuesday next week, we hope to kind of clean all this up, the notes, and be green lighted to go. What the hours are, and so it's black and white, clear, and not just verbal mostly as it is now, so.
We like this idea. And you know where to reach us if you need us. And maybe we should even, we don't have to do it here, but maybe we should plan to have another meeting either Monday or Tuesday, whenever you think will be best.
Probably Tuesday, I would say,
Okay,
noonish, one.
let's do it, Tuesday at noon. Ooh, I think I have an 11:30 meeting Tuesday, actually.
We'll be there, so
We're there all
you tell
day.
us what.
One,
Sure.
does that work for you?
Yeah.
See you then.
Good. See you next time.
Anything else, thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Send me that email, Frank. and
Yeah, I'll send you that.
We'll start working on that.
Okay, okay.
See you later.
Next up, highway secretary job description.
I saw, I didn't have any questions.
It's basically what we looked at last week.
Right there.
The duty list is pared down. I still don't know if at 6 hours a week, all these duties can be accomplished,
I don't, they can't.
but, I think it's a.
It's a
It's
start.
not overwhelmingly,
You don't have to do everything,
Over the
you're not
top.
doing everything, but I mean, it gives them a broad sense of what they'll have to cover. What they work on this week might be different than what they work on the following week.
Is this highway secretary,
yes,
is this for a limited time? Is it a,
It's a temporary position to July 1st.
and then after July 1st?
Well, we don't know. We have the DPW, Jim is out to at
Yeah.
least July 1st, so.
So if it's, then if he, let's say he came back in August or
that.
something, it might extend to that.
And one, two, we'll get into the conversations during the budget, what do we want to do?
so just to give you the full history, cause I think it's probably valuable. And you know, because you've been to many of our meetings, some of it, but we advertised the same position over the last few years. We had one person fill it at one point, and at about a couple of years ago, and then our select board secretary filled bits and pieces of it a few years ago. But over 3 or 4 years, we've only had it filled for a few months combined. We advertised it again this year twice,
I think twice, yeah.
Twice. and failed to get anyone who we wanted that was willing to do it. So we did Plan B, and I reached out to a neighboring
Yeah.
New Marlboro, to someone who does a portion of the job, knowing that she couldn't do the full 14 hours a week, because she has a benefited part-time job there in New Marlboro, but that she also has a very, she's an expert in this particular field of highway admin work. She came to us, we thought that the rate was too high that she was requesting, so we said, no, we can't do it. But then we were having discussions about the director of operations being out on extended medical leave, And we decided that despite initially saying no, we'd hire her temporarily, just to help us get over this hump at least, and then maybe see what it might look like going forward, but to solve at least the medical leave for the next 6 months, or to help
So what's the rate?
remediate, 28,
28?
yeah. So,
So I have two thoughts. The first one is, and I'm not, this is not something I feel strongly about, but just the title, highway office assistant, highway office administrator? Is that too grandiose, or it just, the level of the paperwork, just dealing with grants and tracking grants and chapter 90 paperwork and all of that stuff. It would be the assistant to the operations manager, but assistant, I just don't want someone to feel like office assistant, that should be $15 an hour or something.
yeah,
Which realistically is not what you could get anyone of quality for right now. But that said, like, what title would work here to make it in line with the level of stuff that needs to be done just right?
well, what do you recommend?
I thought office administrator, but I
Yeah.
don't know if that's,
That works for me. I mean, I think
don't know.
frankly, another thing to add to this discussion is that any work that this position is doing is basically taking it off of the town administrator's desk, right?
I mean, I
So-
presume that Jeff was doing the chapter 90.
He was,
paperwork.
he's doing the check.
Yeah.
So you're right, so it's off of the director of operations who's out on medical leave and the town administrator, so I think highway office administrator is good.
I'm fine with that.
And the only other thing, which is kind of a goofy thing, but it's still true, under education and experience in the last paragraph,
Mhm.
that last sentence should read instead of as, and associates, which is associate apostrophe S degree.
Do you have those changes in a version that you've already made?
No,
Okay.
because, just on associates instead of as
Let me
associates.
just pull it up so I can make sure that
Yep.
I make those changes.
Yeah, I just took notes when I was looking at all this.
So we're gonna change it to highway office administrator,
Mhm.
and in the last,
Into the first page, last sentence on the page.
and associates.
Yeah, and it's associate apostrophe S.
Yeah.
Yeah, and on and not as. It's small, but it says as associate's degree, they mean unassociate's
Oh, yeah.
degree or business related ability is preferred, yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much though. The rest is good. It's quite the job description. I'm so glad I don't have to do that job.
If there's no other edits, I'll consider that to be approved.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Do we wanna go ahead and move to hire her?
Yeah, just before we do, in a little bit of back and forth with her about, are you definitely still interested, when could you start? She would start on Tuesday,
Okay,
because Monday's a holiday, and she's proposing a slightly different schedule of Monday and Tuesday from 1 to 4 P.M. I think previously it was Monday and Wednesday.
okay.
I think it's not quite as good for the town, because it's 2 consecutive days, and it's a little bit further away
The
from the
invoices go in on Thursday.
But I also think the point here is to just, we have someone out on medical leave.
Well, I agree.
We're falling behind a little bit.
It's not a
And if
deal
that's
breaker.
when she
It's not
can
a
do it.
deal breaker, but there's, you know.
It's not as, it means that everybody's gotta get stuff in sooner for.
Well, actually, he's been doing the time stamping the last
Right.
few cycles, it's been good.
Okay.
You know, there's still a couple a little late, but the majority are. So,
Okay.
it
What
should-
holiday is Monday?
midnight.
Okay.
So,
What is that, no relation? Is that
Same day.
Same day.
I keep getting more family members, no one in my family ever gets holidays off, it's ridiculous.
Oh, it is.
Schools don't close for most of them, right, so Dave has never gotten these days off. And Emily doesn't get them off either from Hillcrest. So I never keep track because nobody has them off, so it's irrelevant.
I know, I agree with animals too, you don't.
Yeah.
Animals don't.
Every day,
Yeah, this.
24/7, man.
So I think I'm ready then to move that we hire Laura Worth as the highway office administrator, temporary, until July 1st, so 5.5 months, for 6 hours per week at $28 per hour with no benefits.
I second.
Do we actually want to say June 30th?
Correct. I'm gonna amend that
What did you say?
motion.
July 1st.
Oh, right, June
I'm
30th.
gonna amend that motion to be till June 30th, to go along with the end of the fiscal year. Is there any other discussion or questions? All right, we'll call a vote,
Yes.
Yes,
and yes, so that's unanimously approved. So she'll get started on Tuesday?
Yeah, she sent me an email yesterday, I think it was, so I was just waiting for today. And then I'll get in touch with her tomorrow with paperwork
Mhm.
that needs to happen to get started. And then you'll go from there.
Oh, and by the way, the chapter 90 administrator, David Stokes,
Oh, yeah.
reached out. He's the chapter 90
He's the Western Mass
Representative.
representative for the Mass DOT.
And he said, I don't know if I heard you might be hiring Laura, and I highly recommend her. And she's very thorough and does a really great job in Marlboro.
Good.
that's good.
Nice,
to hear.
nice to hear.
Are there any personal policies we need to discuss tonight?
No, just letting you know that I have asked Lindsay to get me the updated versions of all the policies we've worked to thus far by next, meeting her again next Tuesday, and by that time she's gonna have those, which I will then happily send your way, so you can review them at your leisure. I will check them to make sure they include all the things we said that they should include. But, and then she and I will be going over the next set alphabetically. So I did, we did the most important ones, like, pay and vacation and et cetera first, but then I started going alphabetically.
Next up, we have expense reimbursement. So apparently it's in a policy of the town that the select board should approve any expense reimbursements for any department head. I think that should change to the town administrator. And I understand the importance of having checks and balances, but I think the town administrator and the department head is a significant, is
agree.
sufficient check and balance. And the select board in any case sees it on the
On
warrant.
the warrant.
So that being said, the accountant decided that they're gonna enforce this policy, even though they've never enforced it before in my time here. And we have two that.
Three.
Well, my third one.
Oh, you're your third one, yeah, sure.
So two that Roger has, and then a third one, I went and registered the deed for the Lombardo donation property, and it was $155, and you can only pay cash or check, so I paid in cash. And
Really, that is not.
that's $155.
So I have yet to adjust the reimbursement form, so it's just on the side here somewhere.
I'm just curious what they are for.
So his, that one is for a,
One for Don Clausen and one for Brian.
for Brian, he went to a conference.
What's IACP?
International
Association of
Chiefs
Chiefs of Police.
Conference.
International Association.
Somewhere, I forget where he went, but yeah, he went to that.
And then, I don't know if my other members of the board agree with me that this is excessive.
I'm sorry.
but,
Oh,
and
you
we
mean
should
this
amend the
policy?
policy, but.
I think having the town administrator do it was, you could set, if it's over $5,000, it's.
Oh, this is all for that one, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think traditionally, one person, you know.
I don't
charge
think
of
the
them,
whole
I mean,
board
he
needs to be there.
knows what's going on and don't make them.
And this hasn't been enforced until now.
Well, yeah, and I think that we do see it on the warrant as well, so if there were somebody that was abusing something and we caught it on the warrant,
Well,
then.
just see them next time, I mean.
Sorry.
Great.
Yeah, it's just,
So are we
Try
supposed to
your
be
son
signing
calling.
these somewhere? Oh,
Yeah,
that's what that's for.
we're going
Okay, I'm
to.
sorry. I was like, what's this on dash line?
I didn't get a chance to like adjust them to show where the select board is supposed to sign.
I forgot to, so I'll sign.
Wait,
That's why that.
Is this one for me?
Yeah.
But it says Dawn.
Oh, my fault. I'll,
Should I
yeah,
just-
just scratch that up. Like, he had the original one and I was just copying it. I missed that.
That would probably be fine, I'm sure it would make it clear.
It probably
He's on. Alright. Why did I put this down?
You could use a computer and drop it a couple.
Look at this. This is fresh from
And I
today.
bought, I
Oh,
bought
no,
you,
what
a zip drive. Did you back up your
No.
files yet?
No, but I was walking out, I was walking out of the building and the wind just
Oh,
grabbed it and I thought it was gonna
Hey,
be
pass me that
broken.
code, man. I gotta find the notes.
Wow. Never dull moment. The wind was wicked out there today.
Mhm.
It's proper winter weather without the snow.
Some strong winds. I got out of my car at the library one day and I'm just crossing the parking lot and it came like right down Terringham Road. I'm not little, it almost blew me over. I'm like, holy sh. And then I had to go back out because I thought somebody wasn't there and I got, oh, I gotta go back out to my car and get stuff I just.
Imagine what it's like you're gonna fight a fire in LA with that wind.
So I wouldn't say it's a top priority, Roger, but if at some point, we get around to changing the warrant procedure so that the town administrator is sufficient for approving.
So on the specific section,
Reimbursement.
in the, because it's in this document that they sent.
Yeah, the vendor warrant procedure, which I think was approved by the board in 2020.
And that's what I was just wondering, like, is that vendor warrant procedure something we wrote or something they?
I
did?
think the board agreed to it,
We agreed
but they
to it,
haven't
but we didn't,
enforced that particular part of
we
it.
agreed to it, but I don't think we wrote
No, I.
No, they wrote it, and
I think they wrote it.
it. So,
They
I
said.
thought it said
can you have a
2019.
conversation with him about our wanting to update that?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we also have,
That should be under the policy.
we've approved various financial policies. I just think it's something that they haven't enforced and it's something that should be updated. I don't think it's a top priority, but just in the long term, there's no sense in, us dealing with things like things like that. And we see it, like we've said, it's redundant too, because we see it on the warrant. If we catch any nefarious activity, we have that opportunity. So the next thing is the Lake Garfield drawdown automation equipment.
My first question that I had on this was that, I think at some point, maybe we did have this, but I don't recall if, we ever got an estimate of what the equipment would cost.
Yeah,
Because
that's
that number that they're giving us is what we would pay to them.
To
And what
JCA.
the engineered and then the steps,
Right.
and nine is to really to manage the project, you know, they're talking about having someone there
And
4 hours.
I don't think I need to see the construction at this point. I think based on the engineering proposal alone,
Mhm.
I'm not interested in pursuing this further. I'd rather go there personally and open up the gate and close it than pay, what was it,
$55,000.
$55,000 for
Just-
exclusively the engineering, and we're talking about adding electricity, having divers there to do work. And also the 3-foot drawdown is only where we're at right now. So if in a couple of years we go back to a 6-foot drawdown, this is not needed. If in a couple of years we're told we can do no drawdown whatsoever, this is not needed. So, given the changing, nature, I mean, we're kind of shooting at a moving target. We've only been told with the most recent Conservation Commission ruling that it has to be a 3-foot rather than 6-foot drawdown. And this would be an incredibly expensive project if we are told a few years down the road that we can only do no drawdown at all, or that we have to do, or that we can do a 6-foot drawdown.
It's an expensive project in which way? Are there necessary repairs to the existing equipment?
Well, it says here in his opening paragraph, for the replacement of the gate seal, which has been identified in the recent phase 1 and inspection evaluation as needed repair.
Let me rephrase. It appears from this is the reason I raise the question is it does look to me like there is some repair work.
Well,
I guess
repair work and
maintenance work.
automation is two different things.
Right, exactly. It does look like there is some maintenance work that needs to be done on the existing dam infrastructure. Although it's not clear how much that part would cost. I had the impression that they were saying it made sense if you were doing one to do the other.
Right,
together,
that's the
which
way
does
I
make
read
sense,
it,
right?
because his opening paragraph, that's in there.
Right, but I guess I'm wondering how pressing the repairs are, like, is this something we have to do no matter what, or is it something we can put up? I don't have a sense of how urgent that repair is,
Yeah,
and how much function has already been lost.
I don't fully know the whole situation, but I have been kept up to date, and maybe you know some Dennis from like Garfield Working Group, but it is broken, and at some point, we either need to do a drawdown, an emergency drawdown, or we need to hire divers, or both. And we have to maintain, the dam is what we have to,
Right.
maintain, but automation, I think, is a completely different question. And I don't think we could pay someone to go there for 15 minutes a day, every day, for 100 or 200 days, for many years before it becomes worth it to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't know, this 3-foot drawdown is recent.
And
If
we
you
also
talk to
don't
some
know
people,
how
they
long
say,
the automation will work, frankly.
yeah, it will have its own costs,
Yeah.
maintenance
Well,
costs.
yeah, maintenance costs, I'm sure.
I think we should definitely determine whose responsibility it is as we get past this season to actually monitor. I mean, because right now, Mike Germain is monitoring it. I think, because just sort of holistically, naturally just sort of came that way with support from Pete Wilson, because there's a key to unlock it. So, we didn't necessarily want to say, we didn't want to pass the key out to unlock the lock, to turn the gate, to open and close the gate. So we might have to think about whose real responsibility it is in the town. Is it truly the chairperson of the Lake Garfield Working Group?
No, I mean,
Or is it the DPW that's
I think
ultimately
it would
responsible?
normally be DPW, and Mike stepped in.
Yeah, and I think he's been managing it and keeping notes and maintaining. We recently sent out an email that basically explained, how many turns it took to do this and do that, and to raise and lower. So I think that after this season, we've gone through 1 year of it, that it may be something that, we basically say, thank you very much for all your hard work, and now the DPW needs to take full responsibility of it, because he was managing it, reviewing it, keeping track of the numbers, and he would call Pete, say, we need to lower it, we need to raise it. So I think we need to figure out how to do that ourselves.
I think too, one of the problems is when it needs to be drawn down and put back up is one of the busiest times of the year for the DPW, and they're plowing snow and salting and sanding and working way overtime. So that's probably one of the reasons our record keeping has not been so good, which the Conservation Commission, when I went to their meetings during the last approval process, was turned off by the lack of good record keeping on what had been done over the past years, even though it had been requested. So it might require some creative solution if the DPW is going to take responsibility during the busiest time of their year. How are they going to keep records? I don't know if there's any other creative way to not have them do it during their busy plowing season.
I mean, since it has to be done.
$45,000 on GZA.
Yeah, right. Well,
But that's just to the engineering.
Yeah,
Think
no,
about
it's another 50,000.
electricity, divers.
everything. So my follow-up question still is that, GZA already examined the thing and knows that it needs repairs. Can we get them to give us a ballpark estimate of what the repairs would cost
Yeah, we can pull it out.
without the monitoring?
So I can, that's how I'm gonna respond, cause I have the
Okay.
proposal that I sent along, and I think if it's okay with the board, I'll get back and say, we are not really interested in automation at this point, because we're not even certain how long we'll be doing a 3-foot drawdown, and the expense is just not what we're working with right now. We'd rather pay somebody to manually do it at this time. But what needs to be absolutely fixed?
Yeah.
And how can we get a proposal for that?
I agree.
Are there contractors that just specialize in dams? Or do you always have to go through the engineering company to get it?
It seemed like they were gonna work with the original dam installer to.
Yeah, he mentions
It wasn't
that
clear to me
Rodney
actually
Hunt.
if the people that provided the equipment were the ones who installed the equipment, but like, they may not have built the entire dam, they may just have manufactured the dam gate control equipment.
Yeah,
Well, he said in his letter, he'll consult with Rodney Hunt, the manufacturer.
Presumably of the gate control, or the gate itself, but not necessarily the dam in its entirety.
All right,
yeah, I think there's,
Most of it's an earthen dam.
yeah, I think it's with the gate, they were gonna have to hire, because they're gonna have to hire divers, which were gonna be totally separate
yeah.
from the manufacturer.
Mhm.
Anything to add, Dennis?
Well, and, the divers are only gonna be there for X number of days, so it's not a long-term thing in terms of the cost. But I'm sure their hourly rate is up there for divers.
Yeah, it was something like $8,000 a day for the divers. So, but all that being
I
said,
only work 1 day a week.
I think we're gonna figure out what needs to be done to fix the dam, and we'll hold off on automation. And
Yeah.
if we're asking too much, and I know we're asking too much of Michael as a volunteer.
Mhm.
So we are. And that's something that we need to address, but I don't think that hundreds of thousands of dollar automation is the answer to that particular problem.
There is a grant program that deals with dams and coastal structures. If the board is interested in just exploring whether or not we'd be eligible and competitive, because it's basically repairs of dams as well as other flood control structures along the coastline. But the inland is focused on dams.
And it's no local match, right?
No, I'm sure there's local match on that.
Oh, I thought you told me before the meeting there was
No,
a
this is a different one.
different.
I'm not here for that. But since you mentioned it, there is one. And,
I mean, if we need to do the repair, even if there's a match, I'd rather
Yeah,
have the match than have the whole cost
that's a
personally.
no-brainer.
Right, like, pay it all or only pay some, I don't know what they
As
some.
long as the match doesn't you only get the match if you're gonna go automation.
Yeah.
We don't want that, remember? We want these little hooks there.
Basically, we would,
If you find out any more information on the dam grants.
Yeah.
We can put it on the agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Send it along.
Sure.
Please, thank you. I'm gonna get back to GZA and Michael and say, automation is really not in our scope right now, but what needs to be fixed and how much does it cost? And what's the plan?
I mean, at the end of the day, if the difference in cost for automation or not automation is 5K on that, then maybe we do the automation.
Maybe.
But I don't think it's going to be. It seems unlikely to me. Yeah, I just don't.
Now, here's the other thing, as far as Concom is concerned, they want, a lot of data, and they haven't been getting it. And they were justifiably concerned. Now we have the monitoring Hobo link software that anyone can go on. If you don't have the link to it, I can send it to you. And it always is monitoring a few data points. And we should be storing that data, so it's just accessible, because it keeps the height of the water, and various other things, so even if, and then maybe there's somewhere in that software where we can put, 10 cranks open, 10 cranks closed. I don't know if that's possible, but to synthesize.
I'll look at it.
To like, see if we can put what we're doing to the level
Yeah.
of the.
And
of
keep
the
all of our
down
data in
material
one place.
All in one place. I'll be really curious to see how long, like, I think precipitation is down significantly. I'll be very curious to see how long we takes, because I think it's gonna be a lot slower than we normally would have a lot more snowpack. And it's not like we're having rain instead of snow, we're just having virtually no precipitation. We had a little sprinkle the other day, it's a lot lower.
Yeah. Does Concom what do they do with that information if we're taking over the data?
Nothing.
Monitor us.
Yeah, but,
I think
okay,
they
they
use-
monitor, what do they, I mean, it's nice to ask for data, but if you're not doing anything with
They
it.
want it, they want to control it, and here's the problem, Frank, right? Going back 10, 20 years, we tried to figure out, because Concom wanted to know what the drawdowns were when they started. There's virtually no record keeping that we're aware of, other than some people saying, yeah, well, we used to do it 6 feet one year and then 3 feet the next 2 years, but there's nowhere in writing even like, we opened it all the way up on this date and we closed it all the way up on that date.
But
There's nothing.
was there, because it wasn't done or something like that, was there any damage or is there? I mean.
There's no record at all.
It's easy to
What they
ask.
did or what the
It's
outcome
easy to
was.
ask for data when you're not the person collecting it.
Or even looking at the data that you do then, yeah.
Well, I know, you could say data, particularly in today's world, that you're blue in the face, but how much do you look at it and what does it tell you? If it hasn't given you anything or you missed something because you didn't have the data, it's a different story.
Well, some of the lake some of the lake scientists are claiming that drawdowns are very detrimental to the lake ecology.
Yeah.
And other lake scientists and people involved are saying, no, it's actually beneficial
Yeah,
because
but
it's preventing.
But
So
there's been no document that something has suffered.
No, there hasn't.
Okay,
yeah.
So,
case closed.
well, here's the other thing, whatever suffers because of 6-foot drawdowns has suffered. So we can't see what's
How
not
long has
there.
that lake been there?
100 years or so, right?
Well, how long has it been dammed up additionally? It's only been a few hundred years because the original level of the lake is
Yeah, they
about
expanded
where the drawdown is, that the small pond that the public beach is on really wasn't there, and Brewer Pond is only the 70s?
Wasn't it called Brewer Lake to begin with? Because the lake was just,
But Brewer Pond,
No,
where
that,
was
on the map, that's,
because I thought, someone
never
told me,
Brewer Lake.
someone told me that the lake was originally only existed on the other side of
the big
small
pond,
inlet, the big.
the big pond
Yeah,
basically was a lake.
Yeah.
From my understanding, the little pond where the public beach looks out onto, that was basically a marshy, swampy outlet. And then Brewer Pond was a marshy, swampy outlet. It was dammed up where the 3 big culverts are now at the public beach. It was dammed up 17 or 1800s. And then only in the 1960s or 70s was the new dam built, because Brewer Pond, where Brewer Pond is now, that was a swampy outlet area, even up until the 60s, 70s. They dammed that up. It's all interrelated.
And that new dam must have been put in, because it was when I was still in the house on Route 23 where the leper boats live. And we were there from like 66 to 70. So it was sometime and then, because I can remember Ray Tryon coming to the door, like the Saturday before Easter, my kids were dying eggs, and he came to the door. Be prepared to evacuate because the dam may break. Well, lovely thing to say to 3 little kids sitting like, what? So it was after that, or shortly after that they built it. It's either late 60s, early 70s.
Did they build the dam on Brewer Pond?
And they tried to move the public beach
Right.
to Brewer Pond.
Yeah,
That
that
was
was
not a big
one
hit.
summer, right?
I think it was like one summer,
Yeah.
and then
People were like,
Because
Because the
not
kids had swimming lessons there and it was,
Yes, thank you for this, Marshy Beach.
And the Parks Commission has intimate knowledge of this, because when they wanted to limit parking at the beach, there was an agreement between the state and the town about the boat ramp and the beach and the parking for the boats, so there's a long history to it.
yeah, that has to do with the fact that actually it's state water, right?
Yes, Great Pond. Although it's hard to imagine it was a great pond with just the other part. Like if, before they built the dam that was by Darien
Yeah,
Road
but
and
that was,
Fern Beach.
yeah, but that was built like before everything. Probably after this Revolutionary War, but not
Oh,
really after
okay.
that.
So most of the 20th century already had a dam.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
In fact, it was if you read the plaque up at the beach, it was
Yeah.
in 1913, that
The second,
townspeople and the second homeowners bought the rights to it from Collinsville.
from the Houstonic Water Company.
Yeah, no, in Collinsville, the water used to go to Collinsville, and you can go down there and see the dams, but
Where's Collinsville?
down there in Connecticut.
Are you kidding me?
Well, the Concopot goes through Canaan, right?
Okay.
But Collinsville is further east, and there are big things they turn, and I think they made axes there.
I'm sorry, I got everyone sidetracked. Moving forward.
Everybody knows a little bit of history.
Community Center Committee appointment, Mary Makuc. She's my mother. I don't think that there's any financial aspect to this for myself or immediate family though, so I think I can vote on it.
It seems reasonable to me. I think we should appoint her I move that we appoint Mary Makuc to the Monterey Community Center Committee.
I second the motion.
I'm gonna say that it's through June 30th, 2026.
As amended. Friendly then?
We'll call a vote,
Yes.
Yes.
and yes.
Canton, Collinsville is part of Canton.
Mm-hmm, that's right.
Wow, that was a long way for their water to be going.
I think, but there were various
And they can
mills,
control
right?
it up here.
There were mills all along the river,
Yeah.
so they could control, so all the mills would benefit from better control
Gotcha.
of the
No, that makes
water.
sense.
Town administrator updates?
Let's see, the hiring, community center, programs manager, I had 5 resumes. Reached out to 3, for next, to come in for next week. I actually ran into Shaw and we, talked about when that would happen, trying to get it done next Thursday. The town administrators, the TA admin assistant, I popped that onto Indeed and got 5 that I'm looking through. There's at least one that it's a Monterey resident.
This is the admin.
The admin assistant. So there's at least one that's a Monterey resident. I'm gonna have them come in next week or sit down and just kind of looking through the other ones to see if there's any value there. The Concom agent, we've spoken to Noel a little bit about that, and different ways to sort of advertise that. There are 2 other communities right now, Beckett and Blandford, have lost their agent. The person went to work for the DCR, it's at the Department of Conservation and Recreation or something like that, for the state. There is a couple people here and there that I guess are, that Noelle has spoken to. I know at least one person that she's spoken to that might be interested, but I'm gonna get that out and advertise for that as well.
I mean, you mentioned Beckett and Blanford. Would there be the possibility of working with them to hire someone for all 3 towns? So that the person would be.
I think there is.
3 part-time positions, so they might not have their benefits covered.
Yeah, I think there is. I know that my understanding is that Concom and Beckett is interested in, I don't want to use the word sharing because we're not sharing, they're just employed by the different towns. And the same thing is happening with, the same conversation is happening with someone who's working at Alford and Egremont, and they're working part-time on those. So I think that's where we may end up. But next week, I'm gonna put it out on the street there, get some stuff. I'm starting budget meetings this week. I know Susan, you said you were available on those times, and those are pretty much the times. We have meetings scheduled. There's a couple of them that are probably gonna end up next week. There's some of the bigger departments. Specific to DPW, I spoke to Tyler today about the budget, and he's actually gonna step up and work on the budget and look at it. I sent it to him. I sent it again, both that one and the transfer station, which I'm still working on some numbers. So there may be a couple of them. There'll definitely be a few next week that we'll just kind of sit down with.
So what is your meeting scheduled this week, and what are you covering, Susan?
I just told him when I don't know what meetings there are because I haven't seen that. He said the meetings would be between 10 and 4:30, and I can do anything between 10 and 12, and anything after 2:30. I have an appointment at 1.
That's for tomorrow?
That's for Friday. It's all Friday, so I'm
It's
just
all
gonna
Friday?
put them all on Friday, yeah.
Yeah, because if you put them out, then you and I can you let me know
Yeah.
what works Fridays over.
We know what they are. We
Yeah.
usually divide it by departments. We have some.
I'd be
contact
interested in
with them.
doing DPW if you do it next week.
Yeah, that'll be next week.
Okay.
I'll be doing that one next week, and there's a couple others that I'm just sort of waiting on,
Okay.
to hear back from people, just because I was a little late on getting the
Have you
dates out.
reached out to the finance committee too? Because in the past, we had like a member of the
Yeah.
finance committee.
I sent them the
Okay.
same email that I sent you
Okay,
guys,
cool.
so.
I probably should have noticed that. but
That's
I
okay.
didn't.
It's all right. I sent out, working on evaluations, I sent out the documents, the self-evaluation for the department head, and I also sent out to the department heads the evaluation form that they're supposed to fill out and the employee is supposed to fill out for them. So I think I got everybody. I gotta go back and look and see based on what the org chart and how the org chart is put together. Essentially,
Also, another,
Yep.
sorry,
that's okay.
I'm just thinking about it, the org chart is one place to look, also just look at payroll,
Yeah,
who are we paying?
so that's kind of what I've done.
Yeah.
I sort of, I passed, something off to DPW, police, fire, these sorts of things, stuff like that, so yeah. So I'm trying to get all the evaluations done by the end of this month,
Yeah,
the
that'd be
very
great.
beginning of February, so. And then, I was made aware of, this is a very interesting thing, and I've actually spoken to the state about, but someone brought to my attention that when reserving an Airbnb in Monterey, it is not, it's not showing the Monterey tax collection. So the way that the rules are is that once you get to the reserve level of an Airbnb, you're supposed to have all the costs. And there's a spot there you can put your cursor over. I've tried this, I've looked at it 3 times over the past couple days. You select it, you go to the map in Airbnb, you select a location, you click on it, you go reserve, there's a whole list of dollars, like what things cost, how many days you're doing it, and there's one that says taxes. And you put your cursor on the thing that says taxes, the item, and it pops up and it says what those taxes are. And for every single one in Monterey, it says Massachusetts, but it doesn't say the town of Monterey taxes. If you go over to, and I
I was
also,
just gonna say, did you try a different town?
I tried New Marlboro. Actually, this was brought to my attention by Marty. And I went over to New Marlboro. I went actually to the other side of Lake Buell. And there's a just on the other side of Lake Buell, there's a neighborhood up in there, which has about 5 or 6 different homes that are on Airbnb. And they are actually on, most of them, you select it, you click reserve, and when you click on taxes, it says Massachusetts and New Marlboro. But on a couple of them, you actually select and it says Massachusetts and Great Barrington. So I reached out to the DOR, and I think I ended up talking to the DLS, part of DOR, and let them know, and they replied back and were like, oh, thanks. So they're actually reviewing this because we may not be getting
As much
taxes,
money as we should.
Airbnb taxes as much as we should be getting.
So but it's interesting, because we have been getting money, so now
Yes.
that raises the question of whether it's working on some of them and not working on others.
It could be working on VRBO, could
Ah,
be working on the other ones, but we might not be getting all that we need. And I think the reason why there may be some confusion around Lake Buell is because they have a lot of them have the Great Barrington zip code.
right,
And in my conversations with somebody at the state level, they said that's part of the process, is they go in, you put in the address and the zip code of the, and some people might be putting in the correct zip code, like for the physical location, like for us, it would be,
but they're putting the postal code for postal delivery.
it may be throwing it off.
I mean, I would have put my postal code, like in my case, they're the same, but if it said postal code, I put postal code.
Yeah,
Right.
you get your mail. So I'm waiting to hear back from them. They're doing a review. They sent me an email today. I actually just talked to them this morning, and they sent an email this afternoon that they're reviewing all of the Monterey postings. And right now, they're.
Who is Airbnb?
No, the DLS.
DLS.
Yeah, they're making sure that, because my concern was that, well, then there was this thing that somebody told me that if you're saying that when you go on to Airbnb, if you say you're going to rent it for less than 14 days, that there's no tax collected, which I wasn't aware of that. That's what the guy from the DLS said, the DOR.
I thought they paid it for every night they were there.
Yeah, I think that's what you say he said that's what happens when the provider sets it up. They say, oh, I'm only going to do it for less than 14 days. It was really kind of.
Why would you not pay, I mean, that's like saying, well, if I
Yeah.
buy 2 bags of pretzels, I don't pay tax, but if I buy 10, I do.
I
Like
think that might be a default. at the
Well, they're
state
actually,
level.
I think it's almost supposed to be the opposite, long-term rentals don't
Exactly,
pay
but
the.
long-term's over 30 days, so
Yeah.
31 and up. So it doesn't make
So
any
it
sense
was-
for it to be excluded for fewer than
Yeah,
30
it was-
days, because that would exclude like 95% of short-term rentals. which
No,
is mostly weekends and
for
weeks.
14 days over the course of you're using it, right? So if
I
I'm only gonna rent it for 14 days out of the year,
Ah,
yeah,
and not as a renter, but as a,
as a
Landlord,
host,
as a
as a host.
So
Yeah.
that would be lying.
right,
I was trying to,
wrong.
I was trying to figure out what this all meant, because I was like, I said to the person, I said, well, if what you're telling me is true, and it's just showing, and then all it's showing is in Massachusetts, does that mean every Monterey person is saying they're gonna rent it for under 14 days? So I think there's just
something's not.
I think something has gone awry up at how things are connected and how things are looked at, and at the state level and at the Airbnb and how there's, because you can't even go on to Airbnb and say you're going to be a host until you've gone through the state and gotten the code, like essentially like an occupancy code
Right.
before because you have to submit that to Airbnb.
Huh.
So I have to give my hats off to Mari because Mari was,
Yeah.
she was talking to me on Tuesday about it. So yeah.
And I definitely think fraud is lying, and I think it goes above just lying to fraud. Because if you are intentionally misrepresenting something on a platform that involves money and taxes, that is definitely legally fraud.
Yeah.
So whatever I find out, I'll let you know.
Okay.
As soon as I find out. That's it.
Any other unanticipated business?
Just Dennis here. It's my
Well,
fault.
I just got asked Susan, Frank, anything? Dennis?
Dennis.
Well, thank you. So there is a funding opportunity, it's called, it's actually a pollution mitigation 604B grant. And the town has received the 604B grant prior to the 319 grant for Hupai. The 604B grant is basically involved in design of what they call best management practices, ways of doing things, basically, both structural and non-structural BMPs for pollution mitigation. Case in point, Hupai Road, they put in deep sumps and they put in swales and other things to mitigate and capture sediment and prevent phosphorus from going into the lake. So this 604B, that's the one that I mentioned at the outset before the meeting. There is no local match. So.
So would this follow the same, same kind of framework as the Hupai Road project?
Yes.
Do we have a
So there are-
site in mind?
Well, there are basically, I believe, 7 sub-watersheds for Lake Garfield. So Hupai Road and the sub-watershed that this is being proposed, considered for, would involve basically near the town beach and putting in either rain gardens, and I can tell you that the rain garden issue that came up with Hupai Road will not be an issue here because it will be on town property. It will be away from the shoreline, the bank, far enough that there is the possibility that we won't even have to do an NOI.
Where would it be?
Basically,
It's a map right here.
on the entrance of Sylvain Road, north and south at the immediate intersection with Tierney Road.
So I see the property,
I'm not seeing where
but
that.
where would the rain gardens be?
You might need to come point.
Sure. So one would be here, and one would be here. And the idea would be to prevent, because this is used for parking,
Mhm.
Which it needs to be first.
exactly.
Yeah.
The idea would be to make it small enough, but the calculation for the size of it is based on the flow, the calculated flow coming down. But the idea would be to minimize the loss of any parking here. And being both here and here, it's more than 50 feet from the shore or the bank in this case. So
Have you been to the Parks Commission?
it actually, I've had a conversation with, off the record conversation, with Concom, agent, and, they're going to have to look at the project. In fact, tomorrow evening, there's a meeting of Concom, and I might stop by if the board approves,
We can't though, because it's a park. So I think our approval is important, but that's the Parks Commission's jurisdiction over this property.
Sure.
So I think that they need to sign off on it.
Yeah.
I think that we should also sign off on it because it's gonna be using, town resources like grant writing, and I'm sure Roger will play a role. But,
Yeah.
I
I'd
think
also-
we can't move forward without their
Is the,
approval.
is the property across the street there, is that park or is that town?
I don't know if the town owns it.
It's,
Oh, no, we own it.
You know,
I'd also personally, before I like say, let's go ahead, like to see where, like, something about where that would be and some numbers about how it would impact parking and access to the parking.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, cause like, you could put a border all the way around it and say, we didn't impact parking, but there's now no way to get to the parking without going through the rain garden.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Um,
and I know like the grant is in part to plan it, but I don't wanna go pursue something that I'm like concerned isn't gonna be possible to do in a way that
Yeah.
balances all the needs. You know, I support the concept.
Yeah, sure. On the town website is the Monterey water-based management plan, watershed-based management plan. And it shows the suggested location for those,
Water-based management plan,
watershed-based.
watershed-based
Yeah.
management plan, okay.
I'll see if I can get that.
is it the hazard mitigation plan 2020?
No, it's,
Lake Garfield watershed plan?
yes.
How do you get
I did, wait, try just watershed plan and see if it comes up. What page of the 63
Right.
page document would that be?
It's, I would say probably page 70 maybe.
It's only 63 pages. In an appendix, or?
I see the town beach rain garden listed here, but I don't see specification about where.
With the same document.
Oh, it's on,
I'm not seeing any.
page 28, I think.
Okay, yeah, I see it. And 30.
Yes.
That's very helpful.
So mine just has a hotspot map,
Well,
No, you got page 30.
that is page 30.
no, that's 30 on the PDF, not
It's
30 on the
it's-
numbers
It's
on the
28, it's
pages.
the page
Oh.
28.
Gotcha.
37.
Alright,
So
I was
I think
close.
definitely, we should go to the Parks Commission.
Sure.
It's definitely about location 2.
Mhm.
And probably location 1, I think, I don't know who formally has the jurisdiction of that property, it's either the select board or the Parks Commission, but they at least manage it on a day-to-day basis, they pay for the mowing and we're in charge of the plan to have trucks and trailers park over there when boats launch, and that parking is required as part of our agreement with the state, we need to provide that parking.
Sure.
So if it would in any way infringe on that parking, which it looks like it would at least not prevent parking there, but would limit it to some degree.
Yeah.
We should run that by the appropriate authorities, and Parks Commission has all the background on that and authority on that way more than
Sure.
we do. When's their next meeting, Parks Commission?
I think they're meeting this week, I think, actually.
Is it,
the good news is,
It may
I
be,
don't think where that thing is showing, that is not somewhere that people typically, pardon?
Yeah, it's right in the corner there, yeah.
a good top down, that was pretty big.
They are meeting,
Let's see,
tomorrow.
Where was the top down, what page is that?
Parks Commission's meeting tomorrow, so you can hit
So
2 for 1.
back to back,
Nice, son.
value added.
I would say that's definitely the next step,
Sure.
because we can't do that without their approval.
Okay,
So the step would be to go talk to Parks, then come back with a grant request,
right.
do that
Yeah.
here. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
The board had previously approved doing some research, which included webinar attendance, and there's one on the 24th.
Yeah.
And another one on the 5th of February, both related to 604B grants. Okay. We'll see if we can get that response back if the board meets next week to the next board meeting.
Yeah, we'll meet next Wednesday at 6
Okay.
p.m.
And that, the rest of that plan, are there other things other projects that would be applicable for the best management practices 604B grant besides just
Yeah.
that spot?
I was kind of thinking, sort of out of the box, maybe the possibility, and I'd have to talk to the state. It all comes down, if you're eligible and if you're competitive,
Right.
you can't have one without the other.
So-
So I was thinking if the issue of the dam could be incorporated and examined as a feasible best management practice, the repair of the dam. And now that the board has sort of opined on the automation side,
I mean, personally, if the dam's repair grant is zero match, that seems like a definite good
yeah.
thing to go for. I mean, even if it isn't, because we're just gonna have to pay for the repair
Sooner or later.
any which way.
Yeah.
So Dennis, just to follow up a little bit on this, so you'll go to Parks Commission tomorrow and Concom. If the Parks Commission doesn't like the location,
Mhm.
is there another one of the 7 sub-watersheds that's eligible for a similar? I say this only because after the monument was done at the beach and the bench.
Sure.
And the pollinator garden, I remember someone at Parks Commission saying something like, we're done adding things at the beach, it's getting cluttered.
Sure.
But that was years ago. So is there a plan B? Is there another place that this could be done, if not the town beach?
Yes, when Dr. Ken Wagner prepared his seminal document on the watershed, he identified 7 or 8 sub-watersheds. And Upai Road was chosen because you get more bang for your buck based on the location of that project. This project, this proposed location, is almost as beneficial in terms of pollution reduction of phosphorus as Upai Road. So that's why this one's looked at.
Gotcha.
And the other sub-watersheds could be looked at. For example, Chestnut Hill Road is a real tough one because of the slope. And the receiving side or the south side of Main Road 23, it drops down pretty steeply. So that would be a tough one. But yes, the answer is yes. And part of the 604B is actually to look at maybe more than one location.
I think it might be helpful in this instance just to keep that in mind, keep other sites
Yeah,
in mind,
sure.
because it's possible the beach doesn't fly for a number of reasons.
Yeah.
So it's good to know that, I mean, if we could filter all the water coming down off of Chestnut Hill Road before it dumps into the lake, that would probably be a good thing.
Yeah, it would be.
Finding a spot to do it might be the problem.
Yeah.
Be quite an engineering feat to slow down that water.
Steep incline.
But, some bright engineer could come up with some alternative plan, I'm sure.
Are there spots on the other side of the lake or on?
Yeah, there are.
Or where all the other houses are along the lake and all that?
There are the other sub-watersheds, but they're not as beneficial or more bang for your buck, in these 2 locations. But yes, we could look at an alternate location.
Okay, well,
I have my homework to do.
tomorrow, and we'll see you next week.
I've got a busy afternoon.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
okay, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Oh, by the way, I just wanted to mention that, I know the question came up about the data collected
Mhm,
for the dam.
mhm.
Part of that is to make sure that the proper depth and flow rate is collected
Mhm.
to prevent flooding and environmental impact of
Okay.
erosion on the banks.
Mhm.
So that's why they basically want to keep the municipalities to these strict standards of how fast you can permit water to flow from the dam.
Right, okay.
And, so it's good that this monitoring system is in,
Mhm,
because if you go online at the website, you'll see all that data,
mhm.
the height that it's currently at and the flow rate. So that's basically what,
Okay, well, thank you.
And I didn't think about it this way before, but you mentioned it, Dennis, makes me think, what we're doing at Lake Garfield affects everyone downstream,
that's right.
once it theoretically all the way to the ocean, even though our amount is probably so small.
That's right. The Concord Park goes back into
Housatonic.
Housatonic.
And that goes all the way
And that
down.
goes all the way down.
Really?
So,
So, thank you.
All right, thank you, Dennis.
alright.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mickey.
Okay, I am here for the library. Yesterday, it was Monday. At the trustees meeting, it was brought up, there was concern about this, hire for the, highway and administrative, whatever. Because of the rate of pay that was going to be paid, which is much higher than and I thought it was $25 but it's $28, makes it even much higher than what we are paying to our people, and so this is a new hire type thing. Now, that's why I wanted to get all the information from you first. What this actually is, this is like an ad hoc hire. It is for one specific thing, for one set job term. But I think that it should be kept in mind, so that's how I will explain it to them.
Mhm.
I think that it should be kept in mind that to make new hires being paid more than people who have worked 10 and almost 20 years, that's what the two people at the library are. One is, I think, in her 10th year, and the other one is in her 19th year. And then you have other townspeople that are, doing jobs that, there's a certain amount of skill to all of them. And, library, they deal with people all day long and answer all kinds of questions and do all kinds of things. And you have to remember that these people are making less money. I mean, this year, the library, they were just making 21 something, and next year it'll be, if it goes to 2.5%, it'll be just over $22 an hour, and this person is making 28. That
Big
hurts.
discrepancy.
That really hurts, but I can explain it by saying it is a specific job for a specific period, a specific number of weeks and hours, and that'll explain it.
It's a
But-
very specialized skill set that isn't readily available. And with the DPW chief of operations
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, no, that's how,
Yeah.
that is what it is. That's a very specialized thing,
Mhm.
so it's different than just if you were hiring somebody to work in the office here.
Mhm.
That's a different,
It's not just a regular admin assistant, that was kind of my point.
yeah, no, and that's why I listening and asking questions, so that I can explain it to them, saying, I am satisfied with the fact that this is something different. I did explain to them, I said, I can remember a number of years back, I was making $7.50 an hour. I had been at the business for 4 or 5 years. I worked with banks, I worked with attorneys and the paramedics and the paralegals, And the customers coming in, every customer that came in, I had to register them and I had to chat them up and whatever else. That was my job. And I did a certain amount of the bookkeeping. And then you get a young guy coming in, and I remember who it was, had gone down to the hardware store and bought a nice belt and a nice new hammer, and he was hired, and he made $10 an hour. And I was a single parent with 3 children, but I was a female. So, I mean, and there's nothing I could do about it. It was a suck it up thing.
For knowledge as well, I believe her title in New Marlboro was DPW office manager.
No, I mean, and
Yeah.
she's extremely well qualified. It's a whole different situation.
And every situation is different, and I only bring it up because of the situation that arose with the community center director.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times, some of the frustration, there is often an inequity involved, and there are situations that result in that, for sure. But sometimes the issue is also that people's perception of what a job is and what the job actually is are not always in line with each other.
Yeah, but don't diminish the jobs that some of the people do, because
No.
there are times when that does happen. So anyway, I don't have to do this whole thing I typed up, it has nothing to do with it.
Well, Mickey, thank you for asking questions and listening and hearing us out and trying to understand, because I think
Yeah, and that's why I wrote
I
it
can
down,
only
it's
speak
an
for
it's an
myself.
ad hoc position.
I can only speak for myself, but it has been very difficult over the last few months to both see a very real need and something that we need to address in order to move forward as a town, and then have various positions, either resignations or people out on medical leave.
It's
And
not that I don't wanna work for this town, it's not good, it's not good for your health.
so I think, and then looking at questions of salary parity, which are very important. So I think coming to this temporary position was really trying to accommodate the full picture, and hopefully, addresses some of the
But if
concerns.
it's going to become a thing where you're offering people $25, $28 an hour, we're going to have to raise the rate that we're paying the people who are working at the library, maybe the people that are working at the transfer station. These people I did go up to that transfer station in the winter, they're dying of the wind blowing, and then you go up in the summer and they're just like absolutely baking right there. It's like 20 degrees hotter than my house a mile away. So, you have to respect different needs and qualifications that are used on it.
And I do think that we have discussed before that we're aware of some of the potential equity issues, and it's townwide, there's always gonna be that, there have been massive changes in appropriate pay rates all over the place, a lot of,
Yeah, like
some jobs
somebody
are
said-
even more competitive than others.
Somebody said, maybe I should just, they should just quit their job and go as a new hire because they'll be making more money. I'll just come back and get the job next week,
Yeah.
because you're advertising for it. Okay, that's it.
All right, thank you, Mickey.
I would like to say one thing, because Mickey just reminded me, when she said transfer station. Bill will be out for about a month,
Oh, really?
starting January 22nd. Some surgery or something, yes. But, so he'll be out for about a month, up to a month, he said.
Do we need to find it?
That's what I was wondering is, do we need it and how do we find it? Do we-
Yeah, but take a look at the coverage. He was out last year for heart surgery. How did we do it when he was out here?
I don't know, when was that?
It was in the last year. He had heart, it was kind
Yeah, I
of,
remember.
he was like emergency heart surgery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we need to really get Gary and Sheldon. I think Gary picked up some of it. I think some of it, they went to one person. Like Gary and Bill were there today. Saturday morning, it's those two. Sheldon is on Sunday. I think Sheldon's on Sunday by himself.
I think Gary's there.
Yeah,
Gary's
Yeah,
there.
Gary's there.
Yeah,
Gary
but-
works Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday.
yeah, so.
I think all 3 did.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we,
Just checking, because it
I thought he
doesn't.
worked Saturday, Sunday, Wednesday.
No.
No, he works Wednesday,
Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday.
God.
One thing that is not good is closing the dump, because people get trash in their cars,
yeah.
and at least it's cold, but, in a pinch, board members, I work at a dump, so let's, under basically no circumstances, close the dump.
No, I have no
Oh, I
idea, it would
got
never
that.
even crossed my mind.
We'll do all hands
Yeah,
on
yeah,
deck.
yeah,
I think
agree
you're
with
saying,
you.
do we need to get a third person, and if so, how do we do it?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Well,
hard to hire
we
when-
might wanna ask Bill how they did it last time, and then let's evaluate it
Yeah.
next week.
Okay.
You know, we do
Because
not.
Sheldon works for the town.
Yeah, so he actually, well,
He
he
works-
works
what you got?
Sunday, he works Sunday
But we're
through
already down
Friday.
one
No,
person
Sunday
in
through
the DPW,
Thursday.
taking him
Technically,
off of
Saturday.
road.
No,
Thursday,
it's
it's
hard to
Friday
do
off.
with
He's got
snow.
Friday and Saturday.
Yeah.
You know, 'cause you could work them there, and then you don't know what's gonna happen later in the week with snow,
Exactly.
you know?
Not
So,
even on the
okay,
road
I'll
crew.
talk to Bill and see what they did last year, how about the last time?
He was out more than a
Because
month.
Gary was out too for a little while,
He had the elbow
Yeah,
surgery.
he had his elbow.
Yeah. so I don't know what they did then.
So, no matter what, the dump will be open.
The dump will be open, the dump will be open.
Oh, speaking of dumps being open, I heard this lovely little tidbit today at the municipal advisory board meeting, that apparently Great Barrington is pondering closing its transfer station because the transfer station no longer makes money. I'm like, I realize that some of the people making those decisions are old enough that they remember the point where like
Recyclables.
recyclables were, the market was very high and you could actually make money, but it's been a long time since that was true, and there's no likelihood of that returning, and what's the option? So if they close that, then all of the residents are gonna have to spend more money than they would be putting into their taxes to get residential service, because it's much more expensive. And on top of that, people in low incomes, they're just gonna start dumping stuff on other people.
Well,
It's a
there's no
terrible
money in
idea.
snow plowing either, should we stop snow plowing?
That's what I'm like, yeah, so, roads are kind of expensive, so let's just not.
Some people would say, yeah, it's great.
Until they had to drive on the
Look at
road.
those dirt roads.
Right, until they had to drive on the roads, and then they wouldn't be so happy about it, right? And they're like, why isn't the road maintained? Well, you didn't wanna pay your taxes,
Yeah,
so there you go.
So, what's her name, Susan Waite, is that who it was? I had a conversation with her at one point, it's kind of a blur when it happened, but she had actually mentioned, regionalizing, transfer station. Like taking it into, like, finding one location in, say, like South County or something like that.
But see, to me, that makes even less sense, because it's already too much transit time. If you're gonna do that, why bother? Then you've got everybody driving back and forth, you'd be better off doing,
Yeah,
actually
New
doing
Marlboro,
curbside.
Freddie's talked to me because he's on the transfer side there. There was one suggestion that, because the fees for transportation of the containers is huge.
Mhm.
And then if you had a shared truck to do it,
Right,
is there some way that you could save money doing that? I don't know. I have no.
possibly, except then you gotta pay for the vehicle and
You
the
gotta hire the
attendants
person
and
to
the
drive
person
it.
that drives it.
CDL drivers aren't done. But
Oh, and haul it ourselves, as
Yeah,
opposed to hiring
yeah.
a company to do it.
What's a roll-off truck cost these days?
And at the end of the day, then you still have to pay tip fees, right? So
Yeah.
all you would be addressing would be the hauling.
I think it's a competitive market, and I'm not gonna say that we could beat Roger Trucking.
Mhm.
I don't know.
No,
At the rate.
you
they're
gotta be careful what you wish for, because you may have
Yeah.
a driver and then, for example, you say, okay, DPW's CDL driver can go drive and it snows. Well, do you haul the trash that's filled or do you plow the street?
You could put a plow on the roll-off. No, I don't.
I hate
Sorry.
to tell you this, but they actually do that. In New York City and many major metro areas, the trash vehicles
Oh, yeah.
are the snowplows.
Yeah, they have all.
When there's a
all
snow
that.
emergency, they don't collect trash, and the trash
Yeah.
builds up outside buildings while they're
Well,
plowing
New
the
York
streets.
City builds up even when there is no snow.
I'll
There are
tell you
places
though,
that
it was
stink.
amazing, like, to see those
They need to-
giant trucks go by, like, it was crazy.
You need to put power washers on those
God.
I don't know. Anyway, so
Anyway.
it's- I'll talk to
Great.
Bill and see what,
Yeah.
see what's.
See what he does, let's talk
see
about
what
it,
we
and
do Saturday.
I think that you could probably get a few, thinking of Paul up the street. He likes the sunshine.
Yeah, who are the people who already spend an hour at the dump anyway?
I know.
So
Maybe not so much this time of year. If it was the summer, you'd probably get a lot of them.
Oh, I felt bad, Catherine Roberts has been, she started volunteering up there.
Oh, in the swap
In the
shop.
swap shop.
Yeah.
And she was there a couple Wednesdays ago when it was like -10 degrees with the
Yeah.
wind chill. She was frozen solid.
Man, on some days like that, we maybe should just close it, cause I mean, is it really safe to even have people in there looking around, never mind trying to handle stuff?
We have a couple heaters.
Well, it'll be there the next day or the next time it's open.
They're still there.
Alright, I think we're ready to go to minutes,
Yep.
so I think
I only
we're just
got to
gonna do
the
December
23rd.
23rd.
I looked at what both of you had.
Um,
I saw what you did, Susan.
You okay with it?
I'm okay with it.
I thought it was really
Looks
funny,
good.
fire department conservation, it was
Yeah.
really good, I like it. That's an absolutely spell check thing, right?
Yeah.
Somebody called me today and wanted to have a very important conversation over text, and I'm driving, and I'm like, I just called, because they're like, oh, you don't trust Siri, and I'm like, for an important conversation? No. For one that where the errors are amusing, sure.
Yeah, no, they look good, so I would, move that we approve the minutes of December 23rd as amended. And if there's no other discussion, we'll call a vote,
Yes,
Yes.
yes. We'll get December 30th I have ready, but we'll do next week.
no problem.
Anything else before we adjourn? We'll meet next Wednesday. This Wednesday stuff isn't really messing anyone up, is it?
Yeah, I missed my dinner, but it's saving me $100. No, I mean, I wanna be flexible, I'm not gonna be hard.
I
If
just
it
figured
was
if,
gonna be every Wednesday, I'd say,
Yeah,
well,
let's
move
get
it.
that
yeah,
done.
if
Yeah, let's
Patricia
move it
showed
up
up
till
at
5
training
o'clock
next
or
week.
something, but I don't wanna be, you guys have been very flexible.
Well, we could do next Wednesday at 5.
I'd really rather 6.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
six.
fine, we'll do 6.
Sorry, I don't wanna be a pain in the butt,
No,
but
no, no, no.
Yeah.
You have a hard time getting here at 6, so I can't, I wanna be like at 5.
Ouch. Holy smokes.
I totally deserved it, but still, that was painful. I will admit that I was the trying to
I
fix
was
the
talking to
numbers for
David
the
about
fire
changing
department.
that clock back.
No, in this case, it wasn't even that, it was that I was trying to get that, spreadsheet to figure out what was wrong with it for the fire department stuff for this meeting, and I couldn't, it was making me crazy. David's like, oh, you thought he found one thing, but I just couldn't, in the end, I gave up, but that's why I was late. And then I ran into his office to try to see if he knew what was wrong right now.
In the morning, I'll stop by on the spreadsheets. I forgot to put one invoice on there. I sent you what I sent, but I'll come in the morning and I sent you an email, but there's a couple vendor numbers and.
I would like to make a motion though,
Yeah.
that, before Frank comes in, that he calls me up to make sure we're not wearing the same shirts and pants. I was thinking, I was looking, is that the same shirt?
No, it's not quite
You
this,
got
it's
buttons
just
on
similar, similar colors.
Similar patterns, I was like, wait a minute.
All right. Second motion.
We're gonna
Turn that off, and
adjourn
I just
at,
wanna consult with you on
So
that.
what time do you think you'll be in? I gotta do it.
we're gonna adjourn at
Tomorrow?
Yeah.
7:45 PM.
Okay, then I'll probably come early.